Workplace anxiety is something that we all deal with at some point in our careers. And much of this is because we are in jobs that push us into high levels of stress due to the constant hustle culture that we have in many of our organizations today. And while certain levels of anxiety can really be beneficial to us, too much is really debilitating to everything that we do at work. So in today's video, I want to share with you my experience of dealing with anxiety at work and also my strategies of how I have overcome those anxious moments in the workplace. If you're new here, my name is Michael and I'm an education leader that is based in Los Angeles, California, and I hold my doctorate in organizational leadership. So over the years, I've really dealt with a lot of anxiety and even panic attacks in the workplace. I've really been able to use that anxiety for my good now. But early in my career, especially when anxiety and panic overcame me, I found those situations to be very debilitating. And in those situations, I found myself not being able to move my work forward. I found myself procrastinating a lot. And I really had a lot of self-doubt that I could advance and I could improve my skills in the workplace. And so I want to dive into about 6 strategies that I've used over the course of my career that hopefully will help you navigate those times when you are dealing with some anxiety or panic or even just high levels of stressful situation. Tip number 1 is to have somebody to call in those times of anxiety and panic. Now, I know we might be caught up in lots of meetings and work throughout the day that we might not be able to step away. But if you do find yourself overwhelmed by anxiety or panic, it's really important to take some time to step away from the office, go outside and give somebody a call that you could trust. Somebody that is in your family, a friend, a loved one, a spouse, whomever that might be that can ground you. And share the feelings of the situation that you're having with them so that they could help empathize and understand what's going on with you. And oftentimes talking through that situation with a loved one will really help ground you and get you back to a place where you feel calm and you could go back into your office and do your work in a more engaged way that's not filled with anxiety and panic. Tip number 2 is to change the scenery when you're dealing with times of anxiety and panic. It's really important to take breaks throughout the day. We all know this, but especially when you're dealing with anxious moments, go outside, take a walk, and literally shake it out. All that adrenaline that you have built up in your system because of the anxiety needs to have some release of some sort. And going outside, getting some fresh air, shaking it out, taking a walk, and really taking the time to defocus on the problem that's causing you all the anxiety and changing that scenery, changing that headspace, getting into a place that's filled with abundant sunshine, or just fresh air in general will really help ground you and get you back to a place where you need to be. Tip number 3 is all about saying no whenever you need to. Now, we all can be, especially when we're new to a job or a situation, we might be in that type of environment where we feel that we have to say yes to everything that's asked of us. However, it's really important to evaluate what's being asked of us and understand, do we really have the capacity to take this additional project or this additional job on at this time? And if you don't, be very frank with your supervisor and say, hey, I want to do this, but I need to get X, Y, and Z done before I could take this on. Is that okay? Or come up with a compromise of deadlines where you could actually integrate that ask of you in a way that's not going to cause a lot of anxiety and panic. Tip number 4 is to write out those feelings of anxiety when you're in that moment. You might not be able to do so right in the moment because you're dealing with work that you have to do. However, I think it's really important to get those thoughts on paper and out of your head. So whether you're doing that in the evening and as a part of your journaling activities, or you're doing it in the morning to get some thoughts from the previous day out of your head, anytime that you have an anxious moment, it's really important to dump those thoughts onto paper and to get them out of your head. It's almost like a transference of taking them out of your head, putting them onto paper. That way you could feel grounded and alleviated from those anxious thoughts that you were having. Tip number 5 is to know that anxiety in a way can be very helpful to us in some situations, that we don't necessarily need to be afraid of it. Anxiety and just adrenaline in general could help us move our needle forward in terms of the work and the productivity that we have in the workplace. So it's really important not to be necessarily afraid of some anxiety that might crop up. If that anxiety gets too overwhelming or debilitating, you don't want that to happen, and you need to take a step back if that does happen. However, need not be afraid of some small levels of anxiety that creep in, and that they will actually help propel us into getting things done and to being more efficient in the workplace. Tip number 6 is all about communication. We really need to be very transparent, open, and in communication with all the people that we're working with at our jobs. When you have those open levels of communication, oftentimes that stress will die down. If you're able to go to your supervisor and say, hey, look, I'm feeling a little anxious about this, I'm not sure how to move this project forward, and being able to have that open dialogue and those open levels of communication will really help you in the long term alleviate a lot of anxiety that you're having. And it's really important for you as a supervisor, if you're on the flip side of this, to make sure that you're having an open door policy for your staff. Make sure that they feel comfortable and open communicating and talking with you. That way that you're playing an active role in calming down some of the levels of anxiety that your employees might be having. And related to that point of communication I just made, check out my other video here where I talk about some effective strategies to help you level up your communication skills and make 2024 your best year of communication yet. That's it for this week, everybody. Take care. Have a good one. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.